Receiving headquarters.
The series marches on to what could be the deciding set. On La Mancha, the last original map that has not been played today. If Hydra wins this, we're going to go on to an epic Game 5 on Gladiator. But Hydra has to win first. Both players have not disappointed today. They both brought their A game, I think. Some pretty spectacular play, especially from Fantasy in that last one. That was some awesome little tricks. It's just little things are what win a game these days. All the players are at such a high level that if you want to win, you got to win the little engagements, and you got to do the little tricky things like Fantasy floating his science facility over that tank. That saved his outside 9 o'clock, but here we go. Cross positions. Except up at the 2 o'clock position in yellow is Fantasy. That means down at the 8 o'clock in red is Hydra. Do or die for Hydra. Hydra has to win this. Otherwise, Fantasy is going to move into the finals. Again. Fantasy, the last Terran hope. On the other side of the bracket, we have Jangbi, the last Protoss hope. Very interesting. Very nice drawing there. That looks like a trace. I think someone traced that. I don't trust that at all. I think he printed that out. Okay, I said I was going to mention this to one of my subscribers. This is completely contextless, no segue whatsoever. Who has time for segues, honestly? But a Nukanite by the name of Dauber SP sent me a cool photo of him. I thought he was making this up. He said several months ago that he made a Nuke the Stars shirt. Then everyone was like saying, I want a Nuke the Stars shirt. And I was like, no, I don't want to sell anything. So I didn't make one. But apparently he did actually make one. I thought he was joking. But he wore it at MLG. And apparently he had a dude say, hey, nice shirt. Another subscriber or viewer or something. And it was a pretty cool shirt. It has like my logo and then the word the and then a star and then an S. That's a pretty cool shirt. I don't think I'm going to sell that myself, though. But if you want that design, talk to Dauber SP, DOBBER-SP, for Southpaw. A very avid subscriber and a very avid t-shirt making dude. That made my week. Nay, my month. But the second base coming up now for Hydra, putting down his natural expansion. Fantasy walling off inside of his natural. No forward barracks in this game. From Fantasy, no rushes from Hydra. The T1 backwards, what the hell? 1T? Never heard of that team. There is the Scout going up now for Hydra, up to the 2 o'clock position. Hydra looking around for cheesiness, just trying to come up there. Hydra isn't looking for cheesiness. Well, he might be looking for that forward barracks, but not really likely. The third hatchery on the way for Hydra, pretty standard from him, and he is going to spot everything that's happening up here. He sees the natural expansion wall in, and he's going to know that the Marine is coming out. He's trying to get a little bit of damage to that Marine, because he knows that the Marine can't really be healed for a while. The second base coming down now for Fantasy, starting his natural. And yeah, this is pretty fantastic. The spawning pool coming up. These two are such good players that I was expecting nothing less in this series than awesomeness. Although it's not quite as wacky, I have to say, as the semifinal between Fantasy and Calm. That was wackiness. 2 4 pools in a row, dancing battle cruisers. Everything you can possibly think of happened in that series. And going back on forums and stuff to read about that series, I don't think many people actually liked it. But I loved it. I think most of my subscribers were into it too. It was, I guess, not the highest quality play of any OSL semifinal ever, but it was definitely one of the funniest. You can't deny that. But this one so far has just been straight up good macro play from the two. which, yeah, Hydra might want to think about shaking things up a bit. Since we are back on a more standard map, much more standard than Pathfinder, Hydra could revert back to his Ultralist build. If we see an early evolution chamber, I think that will indicate that he's going to try that build again. He tried it, well, sort of tried it in the first game, definitely did it in the second game, and I can see it definitely working again on this map, since it is cross positions. And Fantasy will have to go a long distance to take down the third base coming up for Hydra. I have a feeling. But the Academy on the way now for Fantasy is going to stick to ground, to bio to start this thing out again, instead of going for mech this time around. But he's still mining gas with the 3 SCVs inside of his main. He has a few Marines at the front, not too many Marines, floating off with his barracks just to make sure his Marine can get inside of the wall. But there's not going to be an all-the evolution chamber coming up for the ground upgrades. The carapace to start it off with, but a couple more barracks from Fantasy on the other side. Since this is cross positions, we're probably not going to see a lot of action in this game yet. The observers pointing out that evolution chamber. I hope to see Ultras again. I think that would be fantastic, since Hydra seems to have a penchant for that. But here comes Hydra, scouting everything that's going on. He's going to try to look for the second refinery, but he's not going to see it. Sees that the gas is just there, so he knows it's not going to be any kind of mech silliness, no wraiths coming his way or anything like that. Spire coming up now for Hydra, going to start off with some Mutilus harassment and get up his third base at the same time, way up there at the 10 o'clock position. Now, is Fantasy going to scan the 10 o'clock? He's had a lot of good luck, well, maybe just epic star sense as far as the scans go in this game, but he's already working on the scans, has 4 barracks to supplement the other one at the front. You're going to have 5 barracks, lots and lots of Medic Marines are going to push out soon for some aggression. Here's the 10 o'clock coming up for Hydra. Medic at the front. Hydra trying to get a bit cavalier. Take down the medic. He takes down the first medic. That's pretty huge, actually. That's going to keep Fantasy from pushing out for quite a while. Of course, he does have 2 more medics on the other side, and he's committed to a lot more medics. Maybe anticipating that he's going to lose his medic at the front. But either way, he has the medics to move out now if he wants to. Yeah, but Fantasy, he just had a lot more barracks there. That the Overlord was in to see that. I think that Hydra spotted all the additional barracks coming up inside of that main for Fantasy. The +1 upgrade still going for Fantasy. He might be waiting until that's done to move out. Working on the stem. And the Mutalists are on the way. Mutalists coming up now. And the Zerglings just picking off Marines left and right. Since Fantasy can't really lift off. Oh, trying to lift off with that barracks. And keep those Zerglings at bay. Now that he has some medics out. 4 medics, to be precise. He'll be able to defend against the Zerglings and the Mutalists working together. But now the Mutalists are coming up, going to try to pick off those Marines. The Fantasy went for all of his medics first, and he's just using the reinforcement Marines to make that army even stronger. Let's see if Hydra can do anything here. He's already moving up with some reinforcement mutas, but there was nothing in that bunker to start it out with. Fantasy was going to try to use that bunker for the defense, but didn't have a Marine in it yet. Threw 2 Marines in it that I saw, and the reinforcement line being kind of picked at by Fantasy from the high ground area. Here comes a Firebat. See if we see another defensive Matrix Firebat in this game. I hope so. I really hope so. But the third base is up now for Hydra. He's going to have that mining soon. A pincer attack from Hydra. The reinforcement's going to hurt Hydra a lot, though. Not to mention the Firebat at the front. Oh, the sniping of the Firebat. But there is 1 Firebat left in that troop, and that's going to be enough to stop any more surrounds from the Zerglings. That was a pretty nice snipe, though, from Hydra, I have to say. And got to take a look at those Zergling upgrades soon, see if those do have the carapace yet. I'm pretty sure they do have the +1. And the Zerglings were going for the natural expansion, but they back off for whatever reason. I guess Hydra just didn't want to get trapped in there, but I think he probably would have been able to get a lot of damage done if he had snuck inside the main or something, because Fantasy, his entire troop was outside of the natural, so it would have taken him a little bit of time to get back inside of his main. That could be a wasted opportunity from Hydra, but he still has the Zerglings alive. And for a pincer attack, that could be his #1 priority at this point, is protect his third by having his Zerglings out for the pincer. Now he's still flying around. Fantasy taking the high ground area, and Fantasy might know about the 10 o'clock, might have scanned that. I'm not exactly sure, but he is not moving towards it. He's kind of hovering around the natural expansion instead. He is working his way down to the natural, so Hydra might have to put up some static defense soon, because that Fire Bat might negate the Zerglings. The Lurker's on the way. Lurker's on the way, but it might be a little bit too late. Fantasy's going to surround these Lurker eggs, going to see the Lurker eggs, surround them, possibly take down one of these Lurkers. He is moving his way in. He has scan ready, but he's backing off. For the meantime, Zerglings getting into that resupply line. Lots of Zerglings getting into the resupply line, picking off quite a few Marines, but then retreating. So Hydra trying to figure out when to attack, when to retreat, and save some units in this game. He lost an awful lot of units in the first and third sets. So now he's going to try to keep his army large to fight back Fantasy. He knows that Fantasy is probably going to stick at 2 bases for a long time in this game as well. So he wants to have a big mid-game army to fight back Fantasy. But so far, Fantasy hasn't been able to do much. He's just hovering back and forth, killing units. And it seems that he might go for the 10 o'clock soon, but the Lurkers are going to be prepared for that. So even if Fantasy scans on top of that ridge, I think he's going to have a tough time taking out the Lurkers. Another clamp down of these reinforcement troops outside the natural expansion of Fantasy, but it's not quite enough. Fantasy actually takes down everything, takes down all the Mutalisks, so Fantasy is going to go for that 10 o'clock position, but hopefully he scans the top of the ridge, the top of that choke, because if he doesn't, he might be completely slaughtered by the Lurkers that are out there. Lurkers on the high ground here at the resupply line yet again. Just Hydra just going straight for that resupply line. And Fantasy might have scanned. Fantasy might have scanned on top of that ledge and knew that all of those Lurkers were up there. There were 3 Lurkers pretty well positioned at the top at the 10 o'clock position, so he knew not to attack. But now the Lurkers trying to get the high ground area yet again. And Fantasy is going to have a tough time attacking, even though he has so many Medic Marines and a couple of Fire Bats out in the map. Hive coming up now for Hydra on the other side. And so now Hydra is going to focus even more on the ground. He has +2 Carapace, so this is actually working out a lot like the second game. Getting the Carapace upgrade and eventually going to switch into Ultras with the +5 Carapace, which is probably going to be unstoppable again if Fantasy isn't wise to it at this point. And Fantasy, he played the second game. He was there. He didn't switch out with Flash or anything. He was playing the game. So he knows that he can't fall for that again. He can't switch into mech again and be able to comfortable. But that the Lurkers, here lots of Lurkers on the low ground, fighting up the high ground. But Fantasy able to surround this and take down everything just because he was fighting from the high ground area and he had a science vessel up front. So that's a lot of Lurkers down. Yeah, that was not the right place to attack, and plus Hydra had a lot of Lurkers there. I'm not sure when those Lurkers came into play, or if he could have gotten those into play a little bit better, but yeah, he has a bunch of Lurkers left, but he lost about half of his troop. Takes down a dropship that was going straight for the 10 o'clock position, so that's going to work well for Hydra. But Hydra is still sticking with his 3 bases and going for his Defiler round now. But he's going to need his 4th base. If he is going for the Ultra build again, he's going to need a lot of gas to support this. And Fantasy already pushing to the front with lots of tanks, building more factories. I think he's going to go for a lot more vultures here. Hydra just can't seem to get close enough with his Lurkers today. He could have got a lot of damage there. But yeah, just not close enough in any of his attacks today, with the Lurkers. You really got to get in there when you have Lurkers. It's risky, of course, to have them not burrowed and not attacking, but it's something you need to do to force back the Terran player. But now Fantasy working his way over here. All of his medics are kind of exposed. He has them in a hotkey. So we're going with a Fire Bat, single Fire Bat. Taking out the natural expansion up at the 10 o'clock. The Lurker is not close enough yet again to get any real damage done. So that base was not canceled. Hydra was focusing on the battle, wasn't able to cancel that base. Getting in close now with the Lurkers, but it might not not be quite enough. There is a pincer attack from Hydra. He does have Lurkers on the other side of the defensive matrix of the tank at the front, but looks like Hydra might be able to clean this up. Fantasy going straight for the 10 o'clock. Oh, Fantasy taking out the 10 o'clock, and Hydra has nothing to say about this at all. Firebat's in there destroying everything, and yeah, Hydra is basically out of troops, and he just lost a critical base. If he was planning on ultras, that is going to hurt him so much. He's not going to be able to support. Yeah, he's saved up a lot of gas. Look how much gas he has, 1,000 gas and the tank, so he's saving up for those ultras. But losing that third base is critical. That's going to put him so far behind. I mean, he can pump ultras at this point, pump some defilers and whatnot, but no, GG from Hydra. His game plan crumbles, and Fantasy moves into another finals. Yeah, look at Fantasy. Another day in the office for Fantasy. Another finals, another day. But the Vulture Terrorist is going to invade the finals against either his Royal Roading teammate or the last Protoss Hope. Either way, I'm excited. Okay, guys, I will see you next week for day 2 of the semifinals, Su versus Jangbi. See you guys then.